This is the Web Daily Podcast, news from two opinionated mouths.
Web Daily episode for September 11th, 2019. It's a Wednesday today, and we are finally actually coming here to do this in full.
Yes, in full.
I wanted to come by first and say thank you for those who have clicked on the video that went super viral on the YouTube page.
Whether knowingly or unknowingly, it was us.
Yeah, whether knowingly or unknowingly, it definitely took me by surprise, and I'm glad that that's the video that ended up circulating. And that's what we're going to be talking about today in just a very brief way. We recorded a podcast on this already, and we were kind of long-winded, and we weren't getting the points across because it was so brand new. Everything was just happening.
Right.
People were really up in arms about their position, and so...
And let's be honest, we were being petty betties. At least I was. I have no qualms about saying that.
I just want people to receive it well. I think that's my biggest thing.
Exactly.
Let them choose to be this way, but if I am going to tell you the other side of the position, the other side of the aisle, let me do it in a way that's constructive and where people are going to listen to me and not shun me out. Because I think it's really important that we talk about the realism that we're facing. So a popular morning show called The Breakfast Club in New York City, Power 105.1. They are syndicated to all across the country in the iHeartRadio app as well.
Shout out to DJ NV, Angela Yee, and Charlemagne the God.
And I have had the pleasure of meeting these people. I've had the pleasure of kind of growing up with Charlotte through Wendy Williams, Envy through the New York DJ circuit, through mixtapes and Hot 97 and the whole Desert Storm situation.
Angela Yee through XM.
Angela through Sirius XM and Shade 45 and having that whole stuff, and then being brought to New York, being brought to Power 105 to do the morning show and dominating mornings. Amazing.
Absolutely killing it.
They had a conversation one morning last week based off of the phone call of a blind woman who called in and said that she was upset that her and her friends couldn't get babysitting jobs. And I have been attacked online after my position, my stance, which says, hey, unfortunately, this is the cards that we were dealt. Most of the people that called in that day and said what they had to say against blind people is what a lot of people that we know and that we love
think.
But it's not even that. People that we know and love. We have family members as blind people. We have family members that don't know our capabilities. And guess what? If somebody in their job brought up that topic, they would all speak amongst themselves and make the same jokes.
We have both had conversations respectively with our parents, me with my stepdad and Dan with his mom. And they both agreed that they would not want just a random, if a blind person came to them and said, hey, could I babysit your kids? They wouldn't want a random blind person that they didn't know babysitting their kids. And I agree with them. I absolutely agree with this sentiment. I know a majority of the blind community. Dan knows a majority of the blind community. It does not look favorable.
I've roamed these circles for 14 years.
This is just being real
I've
here.
seen the stuff that goes down.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, people of the argument that I get in return is, well, sighted people are not that, are not any better. But the difference between sighted is
not all sighted people are as capable.
The difference with that is that sighted people, there's more of them than there are of us. So chances are it sticks out that there are more people who are capable than people who aren't. So we just stick out like a sore thumb already, even if we are capable of doing so much. And that's what that's the point I'm trying to get across, is that I'm so tired of trying to prove myself to the world. All I really have to do is prove myself to me. I have to prove myself to me and prove that I can get up every day and I can cook a steak for myself and I can make breakfast for myself and I can dress myself appropriately and go out and look decent to be accepted by people. I have to take responsibility for that. I can't shape the world around me to be like, oh yeah, we're going to deal with and we're going to accept you.
You have to cater to me.
No, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work like that.
And I don't have the patience to live every day hoping that the world is eventually going to snap into place. So
There are so many other access issues we need to worry about as people with disabilities, not just, unfortunately, blind people are so narrow-minded. A lot of them, they don't think about other disabilities. Like the issues I have, buildings being accessible for my friends with wheelchairs, buildings that have only stairs and not ramps. That's an important issue that needs to be tackled. This is minuscule compared to that.
This is what I'm saying. The people went crazy about the Tony Awards not having something for an actress in a wheelchair, and I believe people went up in arms for that. Up in arms about that, and guess what? People in wheelchairs are going to be winning awards. Why the fuck aren't you screaming about their stuff? And my whole question here, to finalize all this before I want to read this news story that came out from WTVD, which is a Raleigh affiliate, who did a story on this because they picked up a blind person to talk about being a parent, which I want to be clear is not what was said in the audio. And this false narrative that's been spread around by an organization
I wanted to talk about
is crazy. But I think my biggest question about all of this is, what do you want? Blind people that are upset about this, for real. And I'm not trying to be condescending or patronizing. What do you want? Do you want the show to be taken off the air? Because that's not going to happen. That's not realistic.
They want sensitivity training. And those people that want sensitivity training have obviously never listened to The Breakfast Club, nor have they ever listened to Charlemagne's podcast, The Brilliant Idiots.
The show's not for you. Demographics are demographics.
The show is
They
not
have
for you.
NPR for people of your types that will clean up their audio and make it all clean and fluffy, and nobody's cursing and nobody's making jokes. If that's the type of life you want to live, there's content for you. If you are a Jesus lover and you want to hear Christian music all day, hey, guess what? There's radio stations for you. There's a whole affiliate. There's a whole conglomerate of stations called K-Love. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but K-Love
I keep forgetting that they're
is a
fucking national.
Is a national brand.
I also want to say I'm really, really sick and tired of people in general, but this goes for blind people. I read a comment the other day that basically said, "Oh, I can take any kind of joke, but this offended me." Stop it.
You're a liar.
Stop saying
You're a
that
liar.
you can take any kind of joke
You're a liar.
until something offends you. You are a liar. Dirty
You're a liar.
liar. Stop lying to yourself. And I want the blind people, these blind people that are so up in arms about this. Dan mentioned this on Facebook yesterday, and petty as this is going to sound, it's true. A lot of the blind people who have been up in arms do not have the best record as blind parents. They have
been knocked up by people who have walked out of their lives. They have been knocked up by people who only want to live off an SSI.
Repeatedly.
Check.
They've been knocked off of people who have been married to other people.
People who have walked out of their kids' lives are commenting on this as if they hold a part in this moral high ground. And I think that's just complete dishonesty. And I am really big on honesty. I'm big on just being straight up, because that's how we can get to the bottom of things so much faster. I don't want to have to pick through the bullshit.
Absolutely.
I don't. So there was this article from WTDV or TVD, The Vampire Diaries, a nationally syndicated radio show recently perpetuated stigmas about the abilities of blind people to raise or care for children, according to the National Federation of the Blind. And I want you to understand, I read that first line specifically because I want you to understand that the narrative that was put out there was by an organization who's supposed to be fighting for us. And my whole thought behind this is to make yourself the victim constantly makes people not want to work with you. To constantly be like, woe was me.
Absolutely. And we are both affiliated with this organization.
Man. I know people. The NFB has helped me out tremendously. I got kicked out of school. I told that story on my podcast, Comfortably Poor Podcast. I told the story. I don't know if it's out as audio. I don't know if that's a story that has made it to light yet. But I recorded that, definitely telling that story about when I was pretty much kicked out of school and the NFB came in and straightened up my teachers. I have seen the NFB do incredible things. So I don't want to take away from the people that I know who do a great part in the organization, and for the people that are in the organization who do agree with me and who understand how to look at things a little more realistic, okay? I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the ones who want to make themselves the victim here.
The ones who decided to say that blind parents are in jeopardy now.
Exactly. Let's continue to the article, because blind parents were already in jeopardy. A radio show where 2,000 people are upset about some remarks is not going to make a dent. I can promise you that right now. It's not going to make a dent. 2,000 angry blind people is not going to make a dent in the millions of listeners that they get in their YouTube page and in iHeartRadio app, okay? It's just realistic. I'm in no way am I saying, is it okay? Should you shame us? No. Don't wake up every day and say blind people are fucking pieces of shit. But to wake up every day and think that you're living in
they didn't do that.
Think that you're living in a world where sighted people really do know all of blind people's capabilities, you're a liar, you're unrealistic, and you're just setting yourself up for failure. Seriously.
Absolutely.
The Breakfast Club radio show has a call-in segment called Get It Off Your Chest. A woman called in and said she couldn't get babysitting jobs because she was blind. The show's host and many who called in were accused of making light of the woman's predicaments. The National Federation of the Blind said in a statement, a show with millions of listeners and subscribers perpetuating inaccurate stereotypes about the abilities of blind people to care for children harms our community, especially the rights of blind parents and blind teachers. A blind Raleigh mother says she was glad to...
I'm a blind teacher.
A blind Raleigh mother says she was glad to see backlash from the advocates and supporters on social media. There have been stigmas and people don't think that blind people can raise children. My son is 26 and it was probably going on way before then, Jonah Simmons told ABC 11. Simmons works at the Raleigh Division of Blind Industries and Services of Maryland. She sews patches for military uniforms. Watching her... See?
So we do know somebody who actually works there. So I kind of want to know. I kind of want to ask her. And she is also a mother who also listens to the Breakfast Club. So I would love to know if she knows this woman.
Watching her work definitely on a high-powered sewing machine showed just how much blind people can do by feel alone. She says that was the case with raising her son. She learned to do everything by feel, and like a lot of first-time moms, she got good advice from her mom. This article is really proving my point. This article is proving my point.
Jesus Christ!
Constantly.
I want to throw.
I was very well aware
everything.
of blind people, of what blind people could do and what they couldn't do, and ways to adapt it. And she learned a few tricks of her own along the way. He wore bells on his shoes so I could keep up with him when he was little. When showing us pictures of her son when showing us pictures of her son as a Natalie-attired child, she probably noted that she had dressed him herself.
I think they meant to write neatly.
Okay.
But clearly somebody didn't do their
whoever is
job.
editing stuff at ABC 7 in Raleigh or ABC 11 in Raleigh.
Work on your shit.
Okay, you're doing an article about blind people. The last thing you need is an article that has an incorrect spelling and be like, oh, a blind person wrote this. When showing us pictures of her...
They should have asked our friend who was a young
showing
mother.
us pictures of her son as a neatly attired child. She probably noted that she had dressed him herself. Joel Simmons is now a registered nurse.
You want a fucking cookie, bruh?
Joel Simmons is now a registered nurse at Duke University Medical Center. But the doubts by outsiders about his mom's ability to raise him began almost the day he was born. When the Breakfast Club posted about the blind babysitter on Twitter, there were a lot of negative comments from advocates for the blind. That post has since been taken down. But Simmons knows that the stigma and stereotypes won't disappear like the Twitter post. She still hopes that the fact that so many came to the defense of blind on social media will inspire people to continuing their parenting. There's no reason you can't do it. You may have to learn to do it in a different way, but it's not that you cannot achieve the goal.
Spare me.
So that article really doesn't help anything because it's furthering it's furthering the false narrative that the NFB had put out there about the call that wasn't even a thing. I will definitely link over to the call in the comments. She's got one more point, and then I'm leaving this to rest. So many people are still commenting about this on Facebook. I have nothing to say to you. I have said everything everything I've had to say. I don't want a discussion with people who can't look at the world in a realistic lens, and I can't.
As
I
it
can't. I don't
truly
live
is.
that way. That's why I don't read much. That's why I don't watch movies that much. That's why I have a tough time with fiction, because it's all perceived. I'm a weirdo.
He's weird.
I'm too realistic, and it might be at a fault. It might be at a fault. It might be at a very big disadvantage for me. But I feel better looking at the world realistically and knowing how to deal with things when they come up, so that I don't have
Especially
to
in this
be
situation.
angry like those people who are upset about this. I'm not angry because I am realistic.
Absolutely.
Now, if I spent my whole life telling myself, I really can do everything and nobody should ever limit me and blah, blah, blah. If I literally lived on that hill to die on that hill, I'd be the most unhappy person around right now. I would.
In existence. Absolutely. I mean, you're unhappy as it is. You're a New Yorker. You're just naturally miserable. So I wanted to bring up, we will obviously link to the call, and you will hear how absolutely uneducated this girl sounds, and exactly why I would not want the majority of blind people, especially if I were a sighted person and my first interaction with blind people was this girl. All she could do is say whatever and talk about Ray Charles. There was 0 points to this. And we pointed that out with our video with the title of Dumb Blind Girl. There were a lot of people unhappy with that title.
I got what I wanted.
Exactly. Clickbait. We clickbaited you,
and,
motherfuckers.
Well, the thing is,
you are welcome.
They think that it's the Breakfast Club who posted the video. And so they're so much more mad, thinking that the radio show not only shat on us, but they put out a video with this type of title when they don't even know blind people and stuff like that.
No, they know that it's when you pinned the comment is when they learned that it was a blind, because they know it's a blind person now. Because there have been several posts on my Facebook, circulating on my Facebook, about how the blind community needs to stand with this girl. About how the blind community needs to stop dividing itself like this. Guess what? And this goes to all you women out there, especially. If we told you to fall in line, if we told you to stand with an opinion that you didn't agree with, you would be immediately up in arms at us. You would be immediately up in arms at anybody who told you to fall in line. We are told never to fall in line. We are always told to be individuals, to stand up for what we believe in. Guess what? This is that case. You cannot. Absolutely, in blind organizations or outside it, you cannot tell other people to stand with something that they do not believe in.
Any movement.
I will die on that hill.
Let them do it because they want to. Let them do it because they feel like it serves them a purpose. Not because you told me, oh, hey, our kind was damaged, and so you need to stand up for this and that thought. Because let me tell you something right now. I will never be a follower, and I will always have my opinions and my thoughts. So much so, let me tell you something right now. So much so that I don't give a flying fuck if anyone gets rid of me on their social media. Our social media is our safe haven. That's our space. We curate what we want to see. And if you can't look at the world realistically and you want to tell people where to fall in line based on your ideology and and the movement that you want to stand behind, then so be it. But I don't want any part of it.
I have already lost a very close friend to this podcast. Now, granted, we are talking again. She has seen the error of her ways, but I don't care. I don't care. And it's really sad that I have to point this out to friends of mine who think that my opinion is invalid, because if I were to invalidate their opinion,
they would get rid of you in a second.
They would hate it. They would absolutely they would get rid of me. I also want to point out the hypocrisy, because the people that are saying stand with this girl, I'm not giving her the dignity of saying her name. The people who are saying stand with this girl were people who have been known in the blind community in the past to do some really shady shit to people, going so far as to even dox people who didn't want to give their real names in the blind community. Those people are now saying, oh, we can't judge this girl. So what? She was having a bad morning. She couldn't articulate how she was feeling. Listen, I know too much about the blind community and y'all's pasts. You do not want me doing an expose on you. You don't, because I know too much.
The little sluts of the blind world, okay? When you're going out to convention and you're giving your pussy to 7 people plus, I don't really have much to say to you. I don't have much to say to you.
Nothing.
Okay? That's really it. That's where I stand on this. So somebody wrote in a post when they shared my Facebook post about it, and they said that definitely one of the things that we all can agree that this has done is divided the blind community. And my friend last night confirmed everything that I've always thought. The blind community was never together. We've always been divided because of this reason, because of the realistic view of life. And that's the one thing that's always going to set me and a lot of us, a lot of people agreed with me on my Facebook. It's going to set me and a lot of my people and a lot of the people in my life, a lot of the blind people that I know, it's going to set us apart always differently from everybody else who want to live their world in fluff.
And it's probably going to ensure my non-attendance at this year's national conventions of both blind or next year's blind organizations. I will not be going to either convention because this is probably still going to be talked about. I know that I have a different opinion of others, and this is going to dominate the convention. And honestly, I don't want to deal with that shit. I want it to die. I legitimately
live your
want
life
this
in fluff.
to...
And let me tell you something. Nobody cares about the NFB.
No one
I'm
can
gonna tell you that right
stop
now.
you.
No one cares.
It's true.
No one cares.
It's true. Look,
I'll
the
be honest
NFB,
with you. Sighted people don't know who the
got
NFB is.
mad.
I'm telling
exactly. The NFB got mad because of a show that the theater company I am a part of did. And they do a little sketch comedy show every year written by folks with disabilities. And they poke fun. They poke fun about disabilities. And the NFB has such an issue with that. And it's so funny. It's so funny to see. Because the NFB has their own scruples, their own moral scruples that they need to deal with. But that is another discussion for another day. It's run too long. We're going to do that, but I want to do this quick because of what day it is. We have not touched on it yet. I want to just do this really quick. 9/11, 18 years ago today, this country changed forever. And him being a New Yorker, he actually has the experience. Eventually, we will talk about it. We will not today because this unfortunately needed to be brought up. But I did want to stop and remember those that we lost who sacrificed their lives to save so many people.
The first responders are true heroes. And honestly, the unity that we saw in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and surrounding states, Pennsylvania. All over the country. And the fact that people were sending their people out from other police forces, their firefighters out. I don't reflect a lot on 9/11 because I was so young. But when I do,
right,
it hits. And it hits hard because I know the fear that was in the air in that time. I know the fear that plagued everyone in my area to the point where for 3, 4, 5 days straight, unfortunately, right? Unfortunately, it lasted that short, but for 3, 4, 5 days straight, it was the kindest you had ever seen people around this country. It was the kindest you've ever seen people.
Yeah.
People were helping people. People were going to run errands for people. People were getting gas. People were feeding people, giving people money. You saw people in the streets hugging each other, crying, like people who didn't know each other. And that kind of unity, unfortunately, it took tragedy to get us there. But we saw that for 5 days, and it's just kind of weird where our life just heads back to. And I think the other that's weird about 9/11 is that it's history. It's in books now.
Yeah.
We lived something that kids are going to read about going forward. And I think it's so weird. And I give it to the teachers. The teachers are the superheroes in this because how do you explain to little kids our country going through hate.
Something you lived through.
Yeah.
Something you lived through, too.
How do you explain our country being hated on when all we raise our kids on is this being a great country? It's a wild thought to think about. That's it for the Web Daily episode for today. Thank you so much. Follow us on the socials at Web Daily Online, and you could also follow me on Twitter at Romero on Air. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Please subscribe all over Apple, Spotify, Google Play. We're going to definitely make sure that those end up in all those platforms. If you are...
we're going to make this a more often thing.
Facebook.com/webdailyonline is where you can reach the Facebook page as well. The website, webdaily.online. And that's about it for us. You guys take care.
Please take care. Being Moss on Twitter. Bye.